7 minutes past 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and we have got a special guest who I think I first encountered, I'm going to say 2017, from about 100 metres away.
Possibly.
That's our clue.
Well, I encountered our guest a little bit closer.
And a little bit more recently.
The other day when I got home from work and I found this person wandering around my backyard. Well, no, not quite like that.
Did the charger stick? Or?
With a wrench in a hand, putting my hot water service in, and I looked at this person and said, I know you. You played for the Cats. It was Jaime Woollett. We used to call her on GoFooty.live back in the day when the Cats were, like many other clubs, pioneering in VFLW footy. She was a fine little player, no longer able to go around, but I thought a story was worth telling. Jaime Woollett, good morning and welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show.
Good morning, guys. How are you going?
Great to have you on board. Really appreciate it. Going back to those early footy days, there was a lot of young women going into the game, very much pioneers in a male-dominated sport. So tell us about your footy journey. Where did it start?
Well, probably maybe 2008, at a guess. They started the youth girls competition down in Geelong. I played for Leopold. There was only 4 teams in the competition at that time, and after you finished playing, you played for the other clubs because there wasn't enough people to fill the team. So did that for a few years. Turned 18 and that was no longer an option, so I wanted to keep playing. Taylor Rhodes, she played for Barwon Heads and her mum was the coach of Barwon Heads. She put a advertisement in the newspaper saying, you know, we've got girls that want to play footy, you know, who wants to put their hand up? And didn't get much traction at that time, but North Geelong put their hand up and said, yeah, we'll have a go. So we started a women's team at North Geelong. This was prior to the Cats. And, yeah, did that for a few years and then Cats took over and, yeah, that's how it all went about.
I ran into probably one of your North Geelong teammates in Shannon Cox recently, who's Shannon Knox, sorry.
Yeah.
Still heavily involved in.
Shannon Cox is still playing on the half-back line for Fremantle in the men's game. That's okay.
She is indeed. He is indeed. Yeah, Shannon Knox, and she's involved in netball now, but she was very much a pioneer of the local footy world as well. And North Geelong Footy Club, to their credit, they were very much the go-to place for many girls like yourself, or many young women like yourself that wanted to stay in the game, and finding a home was difficult, but they were really prominent for a long period.
Yeah. And it's such a good club. Like, it was the perfect place, you know, to start it all. You know, a lot of the girls that I played with are now, you know, best mates and long life friends. Yeah, it was just such an important, you know, time in all our lives, and we found it, you know, footy wouldn't be where it is today in Geelong.
Does it sit really well with you that you were for one of the groundbreakers, if you like, to make it so much easier for many, many young girls coming into the game now?
Yeah, I mean, like, I am quite proud about it. Yeah, it does feel good, you know, to see that, you know, we contributed to, you know, where it is today, and you know, I've got nieces and stuff, you know, that, you know, can grow up now and, you know, play AFLW if they want to. Yeah, it's really good.
So what about getting to the Cats? Did you go down there and bang on their door, want to be part of that early stages, or was it an invitational thing back then?
Well, the Cats kind of pretty much took over at North Geelong. Yeah, majority of the girls came across. Yeah, because North Geelong was the only Geelong team. Like, we were travelling up to Melbourne and Bendigo and all over Victoria to play, you know, a game on a Sunday morning. So there wasn't too much to pick from because there was only one team. But we got invited to a tryout day down at Deakin University there and did 2K time trial and all that stuff. So that's where the likes of Renee Gehring, Anna Teague, you know, Flinny, all them girls got picked up. But yeah, majority of the team was North Geelong.
So the first game that you played was at Cardinia Park against Box Hill, as I recall, because I was there calling the game for 94.1 FM 3WBC.
Yep.
I've got the team in front of me here, and the half-back line reads Jaime Woollett, Anna Teague, Elise Coventry. That's not a bad half-back line, I would have thought. Other people in the team including Beck Goring at full-back, Danielle Higgins, Maddie Boyd, and Jordan Ivey were the half-forward line. How would you like to play against that half-forward line? Forward line included Kate Darby. Lily Mitham was the rover. Renee Gehring couldn't get even on the park. She was the interchange player. So there was some seriously good footballers in that first squad that went out to play Box Hill that day.
Yeah, there was plenty of talent there.
Do you remember how one-sided the game was?
Hey?
Do you remember how one-sided the game was?
Yeah. I never really liked playing Box Hill.
Well, we were broadcasting the game back into Box Hill, and it's really hard to make it sound fun when you lot kicked, I think, 9 or 10 goals, and I think Box Hill didn't get a goal at all. It was a shocking game of footy.
It's horrible weather too, from memory. With
a
cold, horrible day from memory. Jamie, interestingly, you'd played quite a lot of football. How did you take to that period of time where you mentioned Renee Gehring, who's probably the most well-known, prominent person to just walk off a netball court and say, I want to play footy and start from scratch, basically, where you had a fair bit of season preparation for this game. What was that like for the newbies coming in?
I'd imagine quite daunting, especially Renee Gehring, who hadn't played football before. Coming in and playing with a group of girls that have played together for such a long period of time. But mate, she just picked it up. She was just a natural athlete. Whatever she does, excels at. So we were a pretty, close group. Everyone welcomed everyone in with open arms.
Likewise with Anna Teague. I mean, a seriously good basketballer. It must have been a bit of a risk. Certainly at Box Hill, we had people like Tamara Luke, who has been a cyclist on the verge of Olympic, if not in the Olympic squad. To walk away from a sport that they had obviously done since they were small children, to go, you know what, I'll have a punt at this, knowing full well that there would be ridicule coming from a lot of the blokes who watch footy. It must have been a daunting task for them.
Yeah. Yep, I'd say so. I mean, I played from a young age, so for me, it's just, like clockwork. But yeah, for them, I could only imagine that it would be daunting.
What was very noticeable in the early days, comparing the skills to the male game, you were clearly a long, long way behind. But one thing you weren't behind, and that was the ferocity to get the ball and tackle. You were very much an in and under player and seemed to love the physicality of the game. Renee has been on the show and talked about how when she played netball, she really wanted to be involved in the physical stuff, but of course the rules couldn't. That's why she loved the footy. How much did you love that real crash and bash of the game, which you seem to be the feature of your game?
Yeah, well, that was my favourite part. I just love, getting in there and, helping out your teammates, protecting your teammates so they can get the ball. Just, you just do it for each other kind of thing. Put your body on the line to help out your mates. So, yeah, no, I love that component of it.
It was helpful that you were 6'4" too. That helped, didn't it?
Yeah, maybe 5'4".
On tippy toes.
On tippy toes. The other thing, Jamie, since then, in those days, you probably didn't have. Well, you may have because you played a bit before, but certainly a lot of criticism of the girls coming into the game was that lack of awareness of the physicalness from coming from 360 degrees and the inability to properly protect yourself. And there's been some issues around head injuries and long-term injuries in the male game, but it may be that some of the early pioneers of women's footy might be finding some issues around concussions they may have had, which seem to be sort of common in those early days. How did you fare in that regard around being able to protect your body?
I'm pretty lucky. I never had any concussions or.
You might have caused a few.
Yeah, a couple, I reckon. But yeah, no, I didn't receive any, which I'm quite lucky about. But I guess with the Cats, playing for the Cats, we had some training and, were taught how to tackle properly. Initially, we didn't have that. And local footy, you definitely don't get that. You just get taught by your coach on the day. So I think having that training and learning, the fundamentals of how to tackle and stuff really was helpful to prevent, head knocks and injuries, like especially ACLs and knees. That's a very common thing in women's sport. So learning, how to tackle properly, hopefully prevents that.
I also think of what I call the Nina Morrison timeline. Nina seemed to me to be the first person to come through at the Cats who had been playing footy since she was 5 and hadn't really missed a beat. She hadn't gone to netball. And I think once we got to that point, which I'm guessing was probably 2021, somewhere around about there, the skill level improved across the board, not just kicking, hand passing, but tackling, learning how to run, being fitter, all that sort of stuff. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like Nina is, a lot younger than me. So, from what we did, starting the women's football, for her at her age, that pathway was there, for her to be able to, get to where she is, and the kids growing up now, they've got that same pathway and that same opportunity. So hopefully, they just practice, and they, can get to where, Nina Morrison is.
Jamie, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about this morning is the reason why you're not playing the game anymore. Life rolls on and you need to earn money and set yourself up for the second period of your life. And sometimes if you're not highly professional in sport, you've got to walk away from it. And you've got an interesting trade as well, something, again, male-dominated environment. And that's where I found you, as I said, at home putting my hot water service in. It's not normally a place you see a woman, but we're seeing more and more women getting into trades. Once again, you've been a pioneer in that phase of your life. How did you get into that role?
So when I was playing footy, I had a 9-to-5 job at the local plumbing supplies, just ordering and selling plumbing parts. So I was doing that for 5 years and had a bit of a change in lifestyle, a bit of family stuff going on, and I ended up taking over custody of my niece, and wasn't sure how long it was going to be for, so I thought, I can't be doing this for the rest of my life. I need a career behind me. So I took the plunge and started a plumbing apprenticeship. I was lucky enough to get a plumbing apprenticeship with a well-known company down here in Geelong. And, never looked back.
So you're running your own business now, basically, so in a short period of time you've not only grasped the trade but also the business aspect of it. So now looking back at the footy side of it, the two working together, I suppose the risk of injury, all of those sorts of things come into your thinking that, you've got to change your lifestyle to suit the needs at the time. Yeah,
well, that's it. Like, playing VFL, is such a big commitment, and trying to dig holes and, be a plumber at the same time, it was a lot to try and juggle to get the body right.
But even the practicality factor, my son-in-law is a carpenter and plays local footy down in South Gippsland, and it's not only the fact that he broke his ankle 6 weeks ago, and 6 weeks he was out 3 months ago. He couldn't actually do any work. There's that aspect to it, but just the fact, if you've got to be at training at Cardinia Park at 5 o'clock and you're halfway through fixing a dunny, you're kind of in strife, aren't you? If you can't really say, look, I'll be back after training to finish this. Your work has to come first when the financial commitment is there.
Exactly right, yeah. I was knocking off work 4:30, straight to training, after a hard day's work, get a bit of a massage and a rub before training. But yeah, the body just couldn't cope anymore.
Jamie, touching on again the issue around women in trades, we want to see it because it's great and you have every right to operate in that environment if it's your wish, but it hasn't always been easy for women breaking into particularly big job sites. There's a lot of discussion around bullying and harassment. What about your own circumstances in that space? Was it something that you just had to really grit your teeth and work your way through, or did you find that you were accepted really easily in your position around Geelong?
Well, the company that I started working for in my apprenticeship, they were actually, a group of older guys, and they just took me in like their own. So I was really lucky to, land an apprenticeship in such a good place. But I've heard a lot of horror stories from people, with bigger companies and how they've been treated. It's really not fair. Like everyone's entitled to, do whatever they want. It doesn't matter the gender. I've been quite lucky. I haven't really had too much bad things happen. But yeah, there's a lot out there.
Would you say that you'd be able to be a good guide and role model for other young women that wanted to get into your particular trade? Like, I guess you're potentially in a position now to take on apprentices, I should say, but also maybe to mentor some that are in other workplaces just to help them through this period of getting through some tough times if they are in fact there. Yeah, definitely. That's my end goal. I started my business less than 2 years ago. Quality Plumbing Geelong, so there you go.
Under no circumstances are you allowed to say Quality Plumbing Geelong, because that would be we can't
we can't do free plugs here for Quality Plumbing Geelong.
No, we couldn't do that. There are three. There, we've each had a crack at it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely my end game. Like, I am only new to business, so not quite there, ready to put on an apprentice quite yet, but that's my goal. To put on female staff and give them the opportunity, a safe place to work, and teach them everything that I know.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I suspect you've now learned, as anyone who's run a small business has learned, it's one thing to know how to stick two pipes together or put the dunny in correctly or whatever it is, but then the actual thing like doing your tax and making sure the payroll works and stuff like that, the working on the business, not just working in the business, that's a fairly sharp learning curve as well.
Absolutely, yes. I'm still navigating that. Recommendation, get a good accountant.
Yeah, I've been going 15 years and I'm still navigating it. There's the bad news for you.
No, well, I can certainly say from first-hand experience, Jaime Woollett knows how to handle a wrench. My hot water system is running beautifully, so Equality Plumbing. If you want a job done, Google that, and I'm sure you'll find Jamie, and she'll be able to do some work for you. There you go. We've given a particularly good plug.
If I were you, though, if she does come and fix your hot water service or your plumbing or whatever, and she says, "How about a bit of a one-on-one in the backyard with a footy?" I wouldn't go there if I were you.
No,
she'll take your knees out. And you'll never be the same again.
No, definitely right. And on that score, Jamie, coaching. Your playing days are gone. Work's made it tough. Coaching, safer environment for getting injured. Is that something you might look to do in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably not anytime soon. Just trying to get this business all up and running. And once that's a bit more settled, definitely look at doing something like that.
So if you do a quick scan around the AFLW and VFLW, and I suspect if you go into other leagues as well, apart from the big ticket ones, a lot of men coaching women's sides. In my mind, we should get to a stage at some stage where all 18 AFLW sides are coached by a woman. How do you see your coaching future if it happens in women's footy, or would you see a role in the men's game?
Look, I'd probably prefer women's, to be honest. But just personal preference. I, like to help girls out opposed to the men. But yeah, just personal preference for me.
Just, Jamie, on that, I could be wrong, but my observation of watching Australian rules football, men play a certain way because of physical capabilities, and women play the game slightly differently. Unlike other sports, for example, my other sport that I love is cricket. When women play cricket, they play it magnificently and equally as well as men, and they play the same style of game, if you like. But to me, women's footy is a slightly different style of game than trying to copy men's footy. Having played in it and watched a lot of men's footy, what's your view? Are they two separate games?
I think so. We're built different. Cricket, you hit the ball, you run, you catch. Footy, women's bodies are different to men's. Women's minds are different to men's. Women sometimes make better decisions than men's.
Oh, hello. That's all we've got time for today, folks. On
No. We're just built differently. So I do think it is different. But they've both got their pros and cons, you know.
And I guess that's why if you look at the men who are coaching the AFLW sides, you look at someone like Craig Starcevich, who's arguably the most successful AFLW coach that there has been, never coached a men's side. There's very few that have gone. Maybe Nick Del Santo, I think, has coached on both sides of the league.
Nathan Burke, maybe?
Maybe. So it seems as though what you're saying is right. Yeah, you get someone like Scott Gowans, who most people have never heard of, yet is a very successful AFLW, VFLW coach.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, about the game is the crashing and bashing and the physicality. I would have preferred when you started to play that the game was coached left more open. As soon as you started playing VFL footy, it seemed to be coached like the men play it, and you didn't have initially the skills to play that sort of game. Do you think in hindsight, when you started off, maybe if players had have stayed in their positions rather than playing this bloody ridiculous zoning and flooding stuff that you were forced to play? I mean, it's tough enough when room to move around the ball as it was, but back in those days, if you got all 36 players at one end of the ground, it makes it pretty difficult.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, even for the coaches and stuff, it was just so new. You know, we were just trying to navigate, and they were trying to navigate how we make this work. You know, and the men's seems to work for them, but again, it was such a new thing for the women, and the women are different to the men. It's a different game, so you know, it just needed that time and that effort put in, and the training and the practice to work out how it's all going to work. Now it's at a point where, you know, it is getting better and the skills are getting better, and it isn't following the men. You know, the girls have their own game.
Even though you're very busy, Jamie, do you get down to the club much at all, just even to catch up with some old friends or watch a game occasionally?
Yeah, we go down into the past players sometimes. A few of the girls just catch up, watch the game, have a bit of a chin wag with some of the old staff and past players, which is nice. Not as much as I'd like to, but it's good to catch up with everyone. To see how everyone's going and what everyone's up to.
The Cats are very big on the 4 teams, 1 club thing. So the past players, are you going to walk in and see Renee Gehring, or are you going to walk in and see Ian Nankervis as well? Are you seeing the men in this? Is it a single past players club, or is there a men's and a women's?
It's everyone.
That's good. That's nice to know.
I've met some people that I didn't even know, you know, who they were or whatever.
Just on that, Jamie, who were your heroes when you were young and watching the game?
Well, I'm an Essendon supporter, so James Hird and Matthew Lloyd were my go-tos.
Yeah.
Big Dons fan back in the day.
So who are you barracking for this afternoon at the MCG? Still the Bombers, or you got a bit of Cats blood running through you now? That's hard to say.
Yeah.
No, I like them both. I've got a soft spot for the Cats.
When we were doing the GoFooty.live thing, we were obviously following you girls around and doing the Geelong games. And as a Brisbane Lions supporter, when the AFLW game arrived and Geelong hosted Brisbane down at Cardinia Park, I thought, I'm going to go along. I know the Geelong girls, you know. No, once that song started, you know where your heart lies. I've got a soft spot for Geelong in the AFLW, but that's as far as it goes. Jamie, we've got to get going. You've got to go dig a hole or something probably and do what you need to do. Thank you for being part of our show this morning. Great to catch up after all this time. Great to know that you are successfully navigating life as a plumber. And, no doubt you'll have some people saying, I heard you on the Two Blokes Chatting radio show.
And don't forget, it's Equality Plumbing.
We can't name
We can't. No, sorry, that's why we're not allowed to do plugs for Equality Plumbing.
Righto, we will talk again.
Thanks, Jamie. Best wishes.
Thanks, guys. You too. Have a good day.